and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into a beer that is not new to me at all. I've had many times over the years, but I have never given it a proper, thorough review, and it's never been featured on the channel. And today that beer is from Dogfish Head Brewing Company out of Milton, Delaware. Their classic, iconic 60-minute IPA. So yeah, if you're an IPA lover and you've been drinking them for a while, undoubtedly you have had this beer at some point. I have had it many times over the years, though I was curious, how good is it exactly? I know that I personally like it, but I've never broken it down and scrutinized it, in depth, in detail. So I'm going to do exactly that today. In terms of label art, it's got their kind of classic, kind of busy labeling scheme on there, but the 60-minute is easy to identify by the green labeling. Significance of the name, they continuously hop this for 60 minutes during the brewing process, just like there's a 90-minute IPA, 120-minute IPA. So this is kind of the bottom entry, kind of their long hopped kind of entrance to this. This one is 6% ABV. So we're just going to get this cracked and poured right into our all-purpose Sam Adams glass, which is fitting because Dogfish Head does brew and can in conjunction with Boston Beer Company, obviously the parent company of Sam Adams Beer. So quite apropos. We'll get this poured in today. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. We'll slow it down. It is not having trouble forming a head whatsoever. I'll probably top it off here in just a minute. So first things first, visual check. That is a lovely IPA. That's a deep, true golden yellow color classic. It is a very active in terms of carbonation. It is crystal clear, absolute clarity on this beer. It's got kind of a small mix of small, medium, small effervescence coming on the sides, and then just a straight stream running straight up the middle of very fine effervescence. And part of this is due to the design of this glass. Sam Adams does do micro etching to help with it creating effervescence up the middle to get it tiny and tight and fine to make nice heads like this. So guys, don't discount how important it is to have good glassware. I can attest that these are very good glasses. Highly recommend them. Nonetheless, yeah, it looks stunning. Formed a beautiful head. Let's get right up over this for a sniff. Okay, yeah. I smell a lot of earthy notes on the nose here. Also a lot of kind of caramel notes coming out of the malt bill. For an IPA, it's got a rather interesting aroma. A little bit of citrus on the nose as well. And a little bit of floral on the nose. Just slight suggestions of pineapple. I'm not really getting any intense tropical fruit. I'm not getting berries. I'm getting a good bit of earthy, a little bit of floral, a little bit of citrus, and actually a fair bit of caramel coming off of this malt bill. So the nose is quite complex. It's nice. It's pungent. For a 6% IPA, yeah, it's got a big present nose. And I'm sure that a large part of that is coming from the fact that, this is a heavily hopped IPA. It's only 6% ABV, but yeah, they really do hop this heavily. And they don't tell us the specific hops, but we do know that they are a blend of hops gathered from the northwest of America in the hop belt up there near Seattle, Portland, all of that, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. So yeah, this looks the part. It smells the part. I'm going to see if I can just finish getting this beer in here gently. It will hold a 12-ounce can. Perfect. Yeah. Without getting the head too much thicker. It's definitely going to make a mess in the beard, but nonetheless. Here we go, guys. Take one. Oh, yeah. That really is a very good IPA. Okay, so let's first talk body and let's talk mouthfeel. The body on this is kind of a medium light. It's only 6%. It feels exactly right for the ABV. Mouthfeel, it's got the expected amount of resistance. It's not low, it's not high. Again, it's got the right amount for the ABV. though it is worth noting that this one does get quite creamy when you do agitate on the palate. It doesn't have that same kind of feeling of stickiness, but it is intensely hopped, so it does a great job of coating the hop characteristics and the bitters all over the palate. Absolutely true. So body and mouthfeel, yeah, it's what I expected. It's not on the low end, it's not on the high end. It's just right in the average range for a 6% IPA. So the flavor profile, well, they tell you that it's continuously hopped for 60 minutes, and what impact does that have on the beer? Well, it is much more bitter forward and hop profile forward than many, many IPAs with way higher ABV ranges. If I had to guess and put a number to IBUs on this, it's at least 50. It could be as high as getting into the 70s. It's quite bold and in your face. And the flavor profile on this is kind of a mix of three kind of hop characteristics. The major underlying one I get is very earthy, and then there's also twinges of kind of pine and resin and twinges of kind of citrus and citrus oil and citrus rind. So those are kind of the three main profiles. It does feel to me like it leads with this more earthy kind of hop bittering and flavor profile with kind of the pine, resin, citrus being ancillary. I would say it's about 70%, give or take, earthy with equal parts 15-15 kind of pine, resin, and citrus. It's very nice. It makes for a nice, well-balanced flavor composition from the hops. You get a little bit of a lot of the different potential hop flavoring characteristics, and it definitely tastes like classic West Coast style hops, which they told us they used. We don't know the specific ones. I could venture a few guesses. Maybe I'd get one or two right, but I'm guessing that there's a blend of at least 4 to 6, potentially more. It's got a complex aroma and a complex flavor profile, but it tastes distinctly of classic big new American West Coast hops. It's delicious. So aside from the bitter intensity and the wonderful hop flavor profile, what about the fact I was getting a lot of information from the malt bill underneath on the nose? Well, in the flavor profile, it is 100% dominated by the hops. But as the intensity of the finish kind of settles down a little bit, you can just get a little bit of that underlying malt bill flavor. And even though it smells caramelly on the nose, it's got kind of a clean granola and very grain-like flavor profile to it on the finish. And it does happen entirely on the finish. On this beer, the finish is exceptionally long. It is far longer than the average person would guess for just a 6% IPA, but that's part of the magic of Dogfish Head's process. This is the 60-minute variant. That volume of time with the hops while they're making this beer, it has a very immediate and noticeable impact on the finished product. So I'm going to jump back in. I'm going to get a second sip, let everything re-intensify, make sure I didn't miss anything, and then we will talk about the balance and talk specific details on the length of time of the finish. So take two. It's immediate, just big burst of flavor. On second sip, now that my palate is acclimated to the intensity of the bitters, I'm getting a little more nuance from some of the hop flavor characteristics as well as the malt bill. So you can get the malt bill on front. Again, it is very grainy, it's very cereal-like, very granola-like. Very, very nice underlying malt bill to play with these big, bold hops. On the front side, actually got a nice little burst of citrus that popped with the earthiness. And it's actually a bit more intense than it was kind of on the back side of the finish on first sip. And yeah, the resin and kind of pine bit is there as well, but it does still lead very much strongly with a very kind of earthy underpinning, which is kind of my personal favorite underpinning of a hop note to use in most beer styles because it's rather neutral. It's a neutral kind of flavor type of bittering that works well in pretty much any beer style. If you're going to have one major hop profile, I would argue that earthy is the way to go. The opposite one that I would say works in most beer styles would be floral. The ones that maybe are a bit more beer specific are the tar, the resin, the citrus. It just depends on the beer you're trying to make. But it's very, very good in this one. So what do I think about the balance in general? It's excellent. However many hops they use, whatever the ratios were, it makes for a very nice, nuanced, and layered beer drinking experience. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't change a thing about it. There's a reason this has been a classic for years. In terms of the finish, yes, I said it's quite long. Well, what specifically and how does it actually feel? Well, it's wet and round to the end. There's no dryness in sight at all here. It really lingers heavily on the back of the palate, and it does finish off, like I said, again, with kind of earthy, about 70% intensity. That's true on second sip, and about 15 kind of pine tar resin on one side and citrus notes and citrus oil and rind on the other. What is the relative length? It's at least 2 minutes. This can blow most other IPAs out of the water. It is intense bitters that linger. Even though it's only 6%, even though it's not as thick, it really has a bittering and hop flavor intensity that lingers on the palate long after each sip. It is absolutely impressive. So yeah, guys, I've had this beer a million times, never sat down to truly pick it apart. I'm really glad I did. This is a well-known, excellent IPA, and we're going to jump in and get the scores and see exactly where it lands on the scale. I'm going to take my time, sip on this one, come up with my scores, and when we come back, we will get this beer ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Dogfish Head Brewing Company's 60-minute IPA that clocks in at 6% ABV. Dogfish Head based in Milton, Delaware. So yeah, guys, this is a beer that I've had many times. Just decided to actually dig deep into it, break it down, and figure out just how good it is, actually. I know I personally love it. That's why I've had it many times over the years, but never gave it a full, in-depth review. So today we answered that question. I can say, in general, I was not surprised by how this beer performed. It is an excellent IPA. It's one of my personal favorites. And indeed, if we go through the scores, there are just 2 categories that did not get a perfect 10 out of 10. So we're going to jump straight to those 2 in question. The first of those was the body. Nothing wrong with the body at all. It kind of feels somewhere in the medium light to medium territory, which for a 6% ABV IPA, that's pretty much right down the middle average. Exactly what I expected. It's not way more robust. It's not lighter. It's just average. So the body does get a 5 out of 10. The second category is the mouthfeel. And the mouthfeel essentially mirrored the body exactly. It had resistance, but it wasn't over the top. It wasn't well above the norm, and it wasn't below the norm. So this really felt completely average texturally and weight-wise, but it was very nice and enjoyable. So the mouthfeel also gets an average score of 5 out of 10. That does, of course, leave a perfect 10 out of 10 in the remaining 8 categories. That's aroma, taste, finish, head and retention, appearance, balance, my subjective thoughts, and example of style. So the total score on Dogfish Head Brewing Company's 90-minute IPA is a 90 out of 100. So we set out to answer the question, just how good is it? Well, the answer is it's fantastic. That's why I've had this many times over the years. It's readily available. And it's worth noting that this is one of the more hop dominant and hop bittering dominant IPAs that you can find in most places. They used a lot of West Coast style hops. They don't categorize it as a West Coast style IPA, but in spirit, I think they easily could. This is a very hop dominant IPA, both in terms of aroma and in flavor, and Lord knows in terms of hop bittering intensity. This is a big, in-your-face, hop-dominant IPA, and it's one of the reasons that I love it, and I have come back to it time and time again over the years. So guys, yeah, if somehow you as an IPA lover have never tried this, well, now you know exactly where it ranks on our scale. Folks, that is today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you checking in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications by hitting that bell icon. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.